当你新来到毛里求斯这个岛，你是怎么开始接触到这个语言，从零到学好这个语言？
Yeah, I mean, look, what we have is this interesting sort of language providing a lot of really colorful uses of that language, right? So we've got an expression that a lot of people will say, which is, hey, pas casse la tête, pas casse la tête, frère.
我怎么觉得我听你说日语，巴嘎
Baka, almost. But yeah, it means literally don't break your head, which I hope nobody breaks their head. But it means, don't worry or don't get stressed. So what's lovely to see is with each language, whether it is Mauritian Creole, Xhosa, Afrikaans, Portuguese, whatever it might be, is that the metaphors, the idioms, the images that the language uses to communicate certain ideas are unique to each language. And so there are images or scenes that Mauritian Creole presents that we don't have in English too much, like don't break your head.
我喜欢你举的这个例子，就是当你跟别人说你不用担心，别担心，就说别把你的脑袋给撞坏了啊，直接就是我们可以再用 Creole 再说一遍吗？how to say don't break your head again in Creole?
Yep.
I'll try to pick it up.
Of course, ba with a
pa
gas.
再来一次
Bagastolatete.
bagas bolade
Bagastolatete.
bagas bolade 大家一起来 bagas bolade 这个听着特别像那个巴嘎那个日语
Look, I understand. People aren't going to think you're Japanese. People are going to be very convinced that I'm Japanese. So I just look Japanese. I've just got all the right features and characteristics.
我们这里正好有一个观众问，我们有多种语言混用，说起来相对容易，但是要记录下来就麻烦了。这个怎么解决呢？ So like mixing a lot of languages verbally seems easy, but to write it down is difficult. How did people manage that in Creole language?
So that's interesting because you have, in the beginning of the history, people writing it down individually however they think it's going to be said. So typically they'll write it down phonetically or how it sounds. Over time, though, more standardized forms come up. And so now the language has been standardized. There is a correct and incorrect spelling for various words. There's a standard grammar. And so more people institutionalize it.
明白了，就是开始的时候都是胡来，你记你的，我记我的，反正咱们就这么说就沟通明白了。然后慢慢的，等这个语言说的多了，就开始大家决定怎么把它标准化，就有了标准，就成了一个正式的语法了。But would you say the grammar in Creole is less strict than English or French, or not really? It's still very strict. There is standard.
Yeah, it's not that it's not strict, but you do have standard ways of expressing something. So you can change the grammar a bit depending on what emphasis you want to place where. If you want to emphasize the person involved or the thing that you're doing, the verb, then you can play around with it. But it is a bit stricter because, for instance, one of the ways that Mauritian Creole is like various Chinese languages is because it doesn't have conjugation, but it does have particles. So there isn't a I walk, he walks, we walked in the past tense, where it's the verb walk, and then you change that verb in various ways. It's just I past tense walk.
OK， 就是跟中文有点像。
Exactly.
就比如说这个克里奥语里面的时态，就跟咱们中文差不多。咱们不会说这个给动词都加个 ed 把它变了，而是说我刚遛完弯，就说我 I walked。跟英文是
Or I future tense walk.
中文也是这样的，就是我明天去跟你走一圈，所以就不会说 I will walk， 这样比较好。
Yeah.
因为对于中国人学一个外语来说，这个时态是一个特别讨厌的事情，烦死了。然后另外一个就是这个像第三人称单数这种什么 he walks， 这个毛里求斯语也没有 ，Creole 没有。
Nope, not at all.
太好了
Which makes it better. Which makes it easy.
毛里求斯是个好地方啊，同志们，以后要学外语就学毛里求斯语，因为也是因为很多中文的因素都被吸收进去了吧。
Yeah, so there are influences from Chinese languages, Chinese culture on not only the Mauritian language of Mauritian Creole, but also in the culture as well. So what you see is that you can't ever take away the people or the culture from a language. For instance, when I first got to Mauritius, I was looking Mauritian Creole words up in the dictionary to learn how to say stuff. And I found a word there that was the verb for eat. And I thought, I know this word because this word is just 吃饭. No, 吃饭.
在毛里求斯克里奥语 eat 是吃饭
But not 吃饭 but 吃饭
那是广东话
So now it's
吃饭广东话
Cantonese. It's Cantonese. There we go. Yeah.
有意思
So you see that influence there. But my point is that the Indo-Mauritian communities, for instance, or the communities in Mauritius with Indian heritage, Indian ancestry, they wouldn't ever use that word because they didn't speak Cantonese.
印度人不讲这个吃饭的话，那他们说他们的大家都听不懂了，but they can't understand each other.
So they use different words. So when maybe Sino-Mauritians or Chinese Mauritians are speaking with one another in Creole, they might use sifan. But not between maybe an Indo-Mauritian or a Sino-Mauritian. They'll use a more, let's say, French version because that's there. But so you have in the dialects the influence, the history of where this language came from because of who was speaking it. When it's American English speakers will speak in a certain way. If it were Sino-Mauritian speakers, that would be a slightly different way. And all these little nuances and differences, because a language is, one way to think about it is that a language is identity. So the language that you're speaking, the language that you're using, that really is who you are.
所以语言就跟我们的身份认同是非常有关系的。像这个中或者说华人群体在毛里求斯，他们就会用 Sifan， 但是他们遇到这个印度人，就会可能用一个更加法语的这种 Creole 来跟他们讲。但是这些都是克里奥语。They are all part of Creole, right?
Exactly.
When depending on your audience,
exactly,
观众不同，你讲的话不同，那活得也挺累的呀。So it's not that simple. You have to be very aware of who you're speaking to.
You have to be very empathetic. You have to really understand and know with whom you're speaking. That way you can best communicate with them. And what you'll find is if you do that, people are happy to give you some second chances, to let you try again, to say something in kind of the wrong way, but it's okay. They know what you mean.
有意思，就是其实我们讲一个话的时候啊，其实最重要的是知道听众是谁，我们怎么让他们能够听懂。所以对于这个克里奥语最有意思的一点呢，是它里面有各种不同的文化在里面，我们反而是要看听众他要听这里面的哪一个版本去把它讲清楚。